We recently just reviewed One Punch Man vs. Vegeta and One Punch Man vs. Majin Buu in the Dragon Ball Z tournament, part of artist Dragon Garou Lee's fan manga for One Punch Man x Dragon Ball. And at the end of Chapter 2, we see a Frieza Force spaceship heading towards Earth. Now in Chapter 3, we're actually going to see a young Saitama, so this is actually a flashback, fighting against the Frieza Force. And at this point, he's not full-blown One Punch Man, he's pretty strong, but he can take damage at this point. So this is going to be a very interesting chapter. Now before I jump into this, I want to tell you guys about Dragon Garou Lee. A lot of people were asking about this artist, and it turns out that he is actually, because he's so good, the artist for The Time I Got Reincarnated as Yamcha. He was hand-selected based on his fan work for being so good at replicating Dragon Ball art that he was hired to do the official publication of The Time I Got Reincarnated as Yamcha. Interestingly enough, Toyotaro, who is now the main artist for the Dragon Ball Super manga, also started as a fan artist. So it just goes to show you that if you get good enough, you can get recognized by the actual publication and even hired in order to do their work. Some people have been asking me where can I read these online. I found these based on a Reddit post of someone who had collected these images either through his Twitter or some Japanese website or something. So I'm not 100% sure where you guys can find the official releases of these fan manga. He does have a Twitter, which I'll put in the description. It's definitely worth a follow. He's got a lot of really cool art there. He shows some of his sketches and such. So without further ado, let's get into this chapter. But right before we do, make sure you smash that like button and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we got 2 more chapters after this even to review. Alright, let's start with this chapter with young Saitama. So, the chapter opens up with a monster with a giant hole gaping through his stomach, and here we see a young Saitama with hair, a woman thanking him for saving her. Now, that we've seen young Saitama with hair fight a couple times. We saw it in episode 1 as he fought the crab monster, and we also saw it in the One Punch Man Road to Hero special, in which he actually first gets his suit, his trademark yellow rubbery suit. And so this chapter is basically taking place, I guess, somewhere around that point where he's strong, he's been training, he can fight, but he's not invincible yet. And he's definitely not One Punch Man yet. So as we see here, a group of Frieza Force members lands on Earth. They found a suitable planet, and it seems that they find a high combat reading of power nearby, which is actually Saitama. Now, these guys look very familiar, right? These are actually the guys who fought against Bardock. So it's a little bit out of place in terms of time, because there's no way it could be the same guys exactly. But for being a fan story, Dragon Garou Lee, I guess, wanted to use familiar models from Dragon Ball Z. And I think this is really cool. So we're going to see the guys that Bardock fought actually fight against young Saitama. So they think that this high power level, there's no way it could be coming from this scrawny guy. The scouter must be broken or something. And they start off just by trying to kill him, shooting a blast right at Saitama, who easily dodges it and takes them by surprise. Saitama stretching and saying, well, I wonder if I can beat these guys. And then he says, you bastards attacking me out of nowhere, so you really did come to invade Earth, huh? And we get a nice close-up shot there of Saitama. And in an instant, Saitama wrecks a massive blow, punching through one of the alien Frieza Force members that has come to invade Earth. Beautiful panel there showing the power behind Saitama's punch, and the rest of the Frieza Force members are like, you scum, and they begin to all go in on him at the same time. This guy was no match for Saitama either, who punched him. It looks like his face actually imploded from that punch. So that's 2 down, but then Saitama gets caught off guard, getting nailed in the stomach, but then returning the favor with a punch that shatters the guy's helmet off of his head. 2 of the other villains go in, elbowing Saitama on the top of the head. That looks like it hurts, and then kicking him in the face. And now he's kind of struggling a little bit. These guys are putting the pressure on Saitama. It's 3 versus 1 at this point. So he says, let's try consecutive punches. I guess that's a technique he's been honing for a very long time, and we know what consecutive punches do from One Punch Man. The volley of punches blasts the three of them away. Meanwhile, one of the other villains have been charging up a giant ki blast who launches it at Saitama. It's actually a direct hit, catching Saitama off guard, but as the smoke clears, we see that he's still alive, but he definitely took a good bit of damage from that blast. He's even bleeding from the nose a little bit, and his shirt has been blown off. And Saitama says, man, I have to go back home looking like this, at least my pants didn't burn off. But simultaneously, the original guy that Saitama had punched a hole through appears behind him, putting him in a headlock and saying, you let your guard down. I thought I was a goner, but I can't possibly allow you to live. You're too scary of a fellow, and he points his little blaster cannon right at Saitama's face. But somebody catches his arm, and that's Piccolo, who says, you're the one that's going to die. And that's a pretty epic anime moment, and it's nice to see Piccolo here, who's got to be stronger than Saitama at this point. Since the timelines are a little bit out of whack, we don't know which stage of Piccolo this is, as he fused with Nail and Kami yet, but regardless, he unleashes the Fury, punching the guy away and taking Saitama by surprise. Then he shoots a nuke out and destroys the Frieza Force member in a single blast. The guy's face looks like it's melting into oblivion, and that is so satisfying. He calls him space trash, and Saitama is in disbelief. Now we get a really comical back and forth between Saitama and Piccolo. Piccolo's actually thanking Saitama because he's like, you held them off long enough for me to get here. And Saitama says, is being a hero your hobby as well? Because he kind of looks like a monster from the One Punch Man universe. I think that's a play on the fact that he looks just like Vaccine Man. See, your clothes got messed up. Well, very well, I'll give you something fitting for a hero, because we know Piccolo can make clothes out of thin air. And he gives Saitama the Great Saiyaman uniform, then saying, you shall be the Great Saitaman. Zing. That's probably the best part of the whole chapter. Well, it's time for me to head back. Thanks, Piccolo, for everything. Sure. Saitama, huh? He will sure grow more stronger yet. And then Saitama says, this cape actually feels really nice. And when I get strong enough to be a real proper hero, I should I guess get one myself, which he definitely does. So the flashback is over, and we go back to present day with Red Pants Army, I guess doing some villainous things, and they say, you got some balls come into our headquarters on your own, and we see that Saitama is standing there, bald again, in his classic yellow uniform, and he says, all right, let's get it on. And we get a really awesome panel here. Beautiful artwork from Dragon Garou Lee. The whole chapter, I mean, it feels so authentic. It's really hard to believe that this is fan art. Being able to adapt two styles simultaneously from two of the most celebrated mangas of all time is just a testament to this guy's skill. Now we have some bonus panels here of crossover between One Punch Man and Dragon Ball. Just some like quips between Saitama and different various Dragon Ball characters. Right here, Vegeta saying, Saitama, don't miss the new Dragon Ball Super. Right here, Saitama is talking to Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, and he's saying, why are you growing long blonde hair? Are you implying something here? He's talking about Piccolo Day. Like, you know, there's a Goku Day, and I guess there's a Piccolo Day. And Saitama's telling Piccolo, you know that only dumb couples create their own anniversaries, right? And Piccolo's like, shut your mouth! And then we get one about Saitama actually at the Cell games, and he's like, you know, only nerds create their own games, right? And Cell's frustrated. He's like, shut up. That's who I'd like to see. I'd like to see One Punch Man versus Perfect Cell in the Cell games. That's something that I would really, really enjoy, because that's one of my favorite heroes, and my favorite villain from Dragon Ball Z is Perfect Cell. But I enjoy the comical nature of this nonetheless. The final page just being a colored artwork of Piccolo and Saitama flying together. So this chapter was awesome, and as we get into the next chapter, which is even better, the last two chapters are really spectacular. We're going to see Cooler actually arrive on Earth. So the next chapter is pretty much Dragon Ball Z Movie 5, except Goku's not in it, and Saitama is, but he doesn't really do that much fighting. We get an adult Gohan fighting, and Genos has the body of Android 16, which is so funny. We'll get into that in just a couple days here on Mastar Media. Make sure you guys are subscribed with those notifications enabled so you can catch that when I'm done editing the video. All right, fellas, hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you for the next one. Awarida.